During the last offseason, the NFL responded to the demands of no one and enacted stricter taunting rules. Now, a month into the season, taunting penalties have risen by 220%, flags for unsportsmanlike conduct are at 55%, and players, coaches, and fans are complaining that the new rules are detrimental to the game and applied inconsistently. In other words, business as usual for the NFL. Let's take a look at the hypocrisy surrounding the bow and arrow celebration that Josh Norman was penalized for after his Week 4 interception because, let's go to Mike Pereira on this one.
They look at it as the same as shooting guns.
Well, yeah, that's why bows and arrows are protected under the Second Amendment. Although personally, I support a ban on semi-automatic assault bows. They're just too likely to be used in a mass arrowing. Later that night, in a promo for Sunday Night Football, NBC used Travis Kelce doing that exact same bow and arrow celebration. So I guess the NFL's broadcast partners don't understand sportsmanship. Oh, and neither does the NFL's social media team because it was promoting J.J. Watt's finger wag the same day it was penalizing Marcus Peters for doing the exact same thing. Anyway, you can forgive Norman for thinking he could do the bow and arrow gesture because Brandon Cooks did it twice in Week 1, no penalty, and Norman himself did it in Week 2, only getting a warning from the officials. You know, it almost seems like these refs are trying to figure out the rules on the fly. Usually everything in the NFL rulebook is crystal clear. Another player under the officials' microscope, Antonio Brown, who was penalized in Week 1 for making that sweet booty pop. Now that is clearly 3 pumps. Did he learn nothing from Hingle McCringleberry?
Well, that was 3 pumps, and the rule book says you cannot have more than 2.
Now in Week 3, Emmanuel Sanders celebrated a touchdown with 2 hip thrusts and was not penalized, leading many to believe that Key and Peele's 3-pump rule was becoming de facto practice in the NFL. It even makes sense with the NFL's rulebook, which forbids sexually suggestive gestures or prolonged gyrations. And I think we can all agree that 2 pumps does not constitute sex, unless it's the player's first touchdown. It's not their fault. They don't know how good the end zone feels until they get there. But the NFL ruined its chance for pop culture symmetry when it flagged Brown again in Week 4 despite only 2 pumps. Of course the NFL rejected the sensible and cool thing laid out in a beloved comedy sketch. That would have been fun, and the NFL can't have any of that. Oh, but Jerick McKinnon grabbing his nuts the next night on Monday Night Football? Totally fine, not flagged. The NFL season is barely a month old, and I'm barely scratching the surface of how unnecessary penalties have made the NFL's product worse for everyone. Worse for the players on the field, worse for the referees who have to master an ever-growing rulebook, and worse for consumers who prefer game action to endless replays in Mike Pereira's 2 cents. And somewhere in an alternate universe, I have the patience to go through this laundry list and bemoan Roger Goodell's toxic leadership. Then you and I could bond together in our anger and we'd go back to watching the watered-down product we're addicted to. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm tired of bitching about the litany of shitty things the NFL does. Its failure to adhere to its own rules against domestic abusers, the endlessly stupid catch rule, fines for uniform violations, its largely empty gesture of a breast cancer awareness month, its willingness to move any team whose city refuses to build a new stadium with taxpayer money. The list goes on. And the more I get mad at every shitty little thing, the more it feels like a distraction from the single truth that matters most and we discuss the least. This sport maims the people who play it. The NFL, with its crackdown on taunting, would like you to believe that the greatest danger to the players is fights with other players after the whistle. But we all know that the perfectly legal collisions that happen on every play lay the groundwork for CTE, brain damage that sends some of our most brilliant athletes to early graves. And this isn't me being the most woke commentator. I don't think Roger Goodell is heading some big conspiracy to distract us from talking about CTE. He's not that capable. But the more we talk about the minor annoyances of the NFL, the more it feels to me like the NFL is just happy to be in the news for something that's mostly harmless. Let's put it this way. The NFL is a sport where a generational talent like Antonio Brown is 1 hit away from falling to the turf lifeless in primetime on national TV. It would be so easy, so reasonable and human to let someone in such constant danger to just dance when he succeeds. But the NFL isn't reasonable, and it doesn't value humans. That's what makes it the NFL.